guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today you probably know by the title of this video, but we're talking greenwashing. What the heck is greenwashing? Why is it everywhere? Why are people talking about it? Let's get into it. First, I want to start with the actual definition of greenwashing. So let me read that from my notes here. Misleading or deceptive publicity decimated by an organization so as to present an environmentally responsible public image. So putting that into my own words here, I view greenwashing when a brand likes to say that they're green, they're eco-friendly, we're clean, we're non-toxic, but then once you start looking into the brand, you realize they have no certifications, no stats, nothing to back up what they're saying. Because I hate to break it to you, all of those eco-friendly words, all of those sustainable words, hardly any of them have any sort of regulation, so you can really slap on eco-friendly onto pretty much any product out there and not have to have anything to back it up. Yeah, I know. It's pretty crazy, and once you start noticing it, you're not going to be able to stop noticing it. So I'm apologizing in advance because things may not be quite the same after this video. But it's for good, like it's for your own good. You really want to learn how to support like the actual clean, eco-friendly brands versus the brands that are absolutely greenwashing and doing nothing. Like, you know, you gotta call them out on their BS. Okay, so how can greenwashing manifest? Great question. I'm so glad you asked. The most common way that I see greenwashing is typically in months where it's going to be a little bit more rampant. So like Earth Month, for example, which is April. Essentially what you'll see is a brand will just switch like the social media icon from whatever original color it is to green. So if they're doing something for Earth Month and they're like, oh, like this is our environmentally friendly, blah, 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 blah. That's not really that environmentally friendly, but we'll get into that in a second. Well, they'll just change their logo to be green. You'll often see this a lot of times on like packaging. So if you go into the cleaning aisle and you're looking at everything and you're choosing like the Windex that's blue versus the Windex that's clear with a green label, maybe you'll opt for the green label because you think that that one is going to be more eco-friendly. I hate to tell you this, but a lot of times if it's just like the label, the packaging, or like the logo switching from whatever the original color is to green, and I'll put some examples here for you to see, that's just greenwashing. There's nothing to back up what they're doing, they're just changing a color. You can often find this in different like sub-brands that start putting like leaves and flowers and things that look like nature on their logo and packaging as well. Again, don't fall for those are usually greenwashing. Similarly to a color change, and I already mentioned this a little bit, but beware of buzzwords. Buzzwords are basically common like sustainable phrases. They're kind of buzzy, you know, like they have that little zzz to them because people use them a lot. You know, it's like corporate lingo, but it's environmental lingo. So I'm gonna put some examples of buzzwords that you can look out for. It's kind of a long list, but definitely look out for things like green, eco-friendly, sustainable, organic, especially for some things that aren't food related. They can say they're organic without having to have the actual certification or like that stamp of approval, stamp of review, whatever you want to call it. Other words you can look for are clean, non-toxic, chemical-free, you know, words like that. Just because a brand says it's eco-friendly does not actually mean that it's eco-friendly. Like, it's just a word that you can kind of slap onto anything, and when you look at the website or if you actually like dive into the product itself, it's probably not eco-friendly. That brings me to number 3. The third way that greenwashing can manifest is by missing certifications. So I touched on this a little bit, but organic is one that you can put on clothing, for example, and you don't actually have to have the USDA organic seal. The USDA seal actually is only for foods, things that you can actually like chew and eat. So if it is something that is organic, you want to make sure there is a certification. So look for a GOTS certification, which certifies that it's organic and that it's been fair traded as well. Definitely look for those if you're looking for organic things. Another common one that I see, and this actually pains me to say because I hate that I have to say this, but unfortunately it is everywhere, is cruelty-free. So many brands can say that they're cruelty-free, but if they don't have a third-party verification, I actually don't really believe it, to be honest with you. Here are some real certifications. So that's going to be your PETA cruelty-free, your Leaping Bunny cruelty-free. Those are third-party verified. They do all the hard work for you, and they say, okay, yes, this brand is cruelty-free. The brand has to pay to have those on there. On this side of me, I'm going to put all the fake certifications, or the fake like logos that brands will create that say it's cruelty-free without it actually. It usually has like some sort of bunny involved. And if you see see these fake ones, don't fall for it. Just don't fall for it. This one is a little metaphorical. Think of the life cycle of a product. So if a product is designed to basically be thrown away, it's probably not that eco-friendly. There are some exceptions to this. I've seen like igloo containers that usually come in styrofoam. I saw that they like released like a paper one that's like made out of cardboard. So I would say, yeah, that's, you know, technically supposed to be disposable, but it's like definitely a better option. I would say use the reusable option, but I know that's not in everybody's realm of things that they're able to do, or depending on whatever their situation is. I also think about like coffee cups at coffee shops. So there are compostable, they look like plastic, but it's compostable. Those I would say are a great option. Even though that's still considered to be disposable, the life cycle it's not indefinite, but that I would say that's a better option because people are going to use disposable cups whether we like it or not. And so it's great to have an option out there that actually can be composted at the end of its life. So think about its life cycle. Is it meant to be thrown away? Once it's thrown away, can it be composted? Will it break down, or is it going to live on for forever? If it is just meant to be, you know, thrown away after like one single tear in the fabric, yeah, no, that's probably a little greenwashy. Now I kind of want to give you some examples. So these are all greenwashing examples that are real life examples that are actually pretty crazy. Once I point them out, you'll see it and you're gonna be like, wow, like that's bananas. And I'm gonna be like, yeah, it is bananas. But like, this is what people do, okay? This is just what brands do because they want to make themselves look really good, even though they're not really doing that good. Okay, so a few years ago, Sprite changed their green, like their signature green Sprite bottles to be clear bottles. You know, the reason they're saying this is because clear plastic is more easily recyclable when you compare it to green plastic. So yeah, there is a little bit of truth to that. But if you really want to dig into the weeds there, plastic in and of itself is not really easily recyclable. In fact, there have been many studies that have come out that only about like 7%, I think, of plastic is actually recycled when it goes into the recycling system. But I don't want that to discourage you. Please keep recycling. Just rinse them out before you throw them in there. So they reached a lot of scrutiny once they did this, like especially from the environmental space, because they're like, well, if you're actually going to make a change, why don't you make a change to something that's better in the long run, like biodegradable plastic, or even moving back to glass, or some other form of material that actually can be recycled. Some people are saying they're really only switching from green plastic to clear plastic because if you look at a landfill, you can tell which of these bottles is a Sprite bottle, but you can't tell which of these clear bottles, what brand they come from. A lot of people are just speculating that they're really making this change so that way they won't be able to tell what's a Sprite bottle when you look at these awful, awful photos of littering in landfills. That's greenwashing, everybody, okay? That's greenwashing. My second example of greenwashing, and man, I hate to say this because I was so surprised when I learned about this, but is actually going to be Mrs. Meyer's. I think this brand is greenwashing. When I did some research on it, I found that a lot of their scents are all very like nature inspired. They use a lot of like cleaning. They use a lot of like leaves and things in their marketing. So when I would go to the grocery store, I would pick up Mrs. Meyer's. I'm like, okay, this is like a more sustainable option. But when you start to do some research into it, their cleaning products, yeah, they do have some sort of enzymes, or I think it's like probiotics or something similar. I'll put it up here. But really, like when you dig down deep into it, like there's really nothing sustainable about the brand, like if at all. Like I would say that this is very greenwashing because their marketing makes you think that this is a very clean, eco-friendly brand, and in reality, it's not. Like the brand was made just to make cleaning products that smelled good. That's it. They just wanted products that smelled better than your everyday products. But they make it look good, right? And that's why you should do your research on these brands. So don't be fooled. These are just some examples that I've seen in the last year or two. Okay, so if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my Lord, how can I stop this? Like, how can I be the change? How can I hold these brands accountable? Well, you can. The first thing you can do is just vote with your dollar. Choose brands, do the research that are actually sustainable and making a change for good, giving back to their communities, all that jazz. Opt for those brands instead of the ones that are just actively trying to market their way into making you think otherwise. Another way you can do this, if you're feeling more gutsy, you can always hold brands accountable. So you can always email them and say, hey, I don't like that you did XYZ, you should do XYZ instead. You can always find those emails and those contacts online if you do a little digging on Google. And if you're watching this and you are a brand, just scrutinize your brand. Look at your website right now. Make sure that if you do have sustainable values, make it easily accessible for anybody to find exactly what they're looking for. If you say that you have certifications, link to your certification, show us that you actually have this and you're not just lying and making people think you're certified when you're not, and just be transparent. The biggest problem in the marketing space is that there's just a lack of transparency, which is why brands that are like B Corps that are focused on transparency are so important to have. So don't get discouraged, just keep your eyes open, opt for brands that are definitely more. So don't get discouraged, keep on trucking along. So on that note, I will see you next week. Bye!